crime wave in America taking a horrific new turn that could be the culmination of the left's policies. Outrage growing after a brutal rape of a woman on a train outside Philadelphia. Police say other commuters took out their phones and recorded it instead of calling 911. The victim was reportedly harassed for over 40 minutes and traveled 27 stops before the suspect was arrested. The other passengers who did nothing could reportedly be charged. And as you can imagine, local authorities are furious.
People were holding their phone up in the direction of this woman being attacked. What we want everyone to be is angry, disgusted, and join us in being resolute to continue to make the system safe. When they see inappropriate behavior that you wouldn't want your 10-year-old to see, call the police. Call 911.
The details of this story get even worse. The suspect is an illegal immigrant with a very long rap sheet. He overstayed a student visa and then racked up multiple arrests and 2 misdemeanor convictions, including pleading guilty to a sexual abuse misdemeanor in 2017. He was then put in immigration detention in 2018, but was never deported. So we'll get to the immigration thing in a second, Greg, but what does it say about the culture of this country that this could happen?
Well, I'm not going to take a broad brush to the country because we're disgusted by this, which is good. What if we weren't just everybody is disgusted by this story. So that's a good sign. But it's not just about the ghoulish thug. It's about the DAs and the judges who could have prevented this, who could have kept this guy behind bars or sent him back out. And this is not an isolated occurrence. We're having these wake-up calls every week now. We've had more wake-up calls than the Motley Crew, and nothing changes. We had the father of a rape victim get arrested because he was pointing out the rapist had been freed to assault his daughter after previously assaulting somebody else. That was in Loudoun County. We had a woman murdered by her ex after he was released after beating her up. That was in Virginia. Again, another left-wing DA responsible for that. You have mentally ill and drug-addicted individuals beating up elderly people in Manhattan. It's often saying very hateful things, right? But that doesn't register in legacy media because it's not the right skin color. Instead, in New York City, racism has been declared a public health crisis, right? But racism isn't going around raping people. It didn't kill the Filipino nurse in Times Square. It didn't bash Asian women in the subway. The only crime that racism fuels is the deliberate ignorance of this rising homicide and rising crime rates by guilty white leftist leaders. That's where the racism in. And we got to stop this, man, because I just don't know how a country can survive when we basically look at lawlessness as a weather pattern.
Yeah, to Greg's point, Dana, you had an immigration judge after the sexual assault said, yeah, deport the guy. And then on appeal, another panel said, no, he gets to stay. And then after the drug conviction, the sexual assault conviction, 2 more arrests in Philadelphia, sanctuary city, so he gets to stay.
And this has been one of the most disturbing things I've had to report on for a while. We did this story this morning with Judge Janine, and she had some excellent points about this. One of them is that you put yourself in her shoes. So not only is she being harassed by this guy, groped by the guy, and then raped by the guy, her clothes torn off, and there are people all around, and they don't do anything. So she has the crime of the rape, the violence of that, but also she would have seen that nobody did anything. And I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. I've not witnessed a crime where I would have been asked or been compelled to do something. You'd like to think that you would. I don't understand. And when you talk about the culture, this seemed to me like something that you might only see somebody with a sick mind come up with in Hollywood. But it's reality. The other thing is, this woman, once she gets to the point where she feels like she can do something like this, I think she should sue the federal government because he should have been deported multiple times and she deserves restitution.
She does. And they don't even have to be a hulking masculine hero on that train. You're not asking for that. You're asking for 911. This is the train. This is the time. That's all you need to do. And they didn't do it.
This was maybe as sickening a story that anyone could imagine and to have to see it. You almost, to your point, it sounded incredulous hearing it. We seem more obsessed with making videos and having it displayed on or putting it on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it might be than this. we were all together. You were kind to have me on 9/11, and we sometimes forget that one of those planes was taken down by a group of Americans who decided we were not going to let this plane crash into the White House or the Capitol. They gave their lives. All you had to do was call the police. It's a reflection on us as a society. You're right, Greg. Our outrage is the right thing. It was the right response. But I can't get beyond how 40 minutes. How do you see another human being in front of you and not throw yourself to try to stop it? We're saying call the police. I don't know how you don't stop it. There were enough of them on the train to try to stop it. Right. So it's hard to comment. I just can't imagine. The sinking of culture for something like this, it's hard to describe. The pain and the fact that we have to look at something like that.
Yeah, what does it say psychologically that everybody just wanted to be a social media producer, Katie?
To me, obviously, and everybody here and most people who read this say, it's very clear the difference between right and wrong in this scenario. But clearly to the people on the train who took out their phone for 40 minutes, instead didn't see it the same way as right and wrong. And you're right. It wasn't just one person late at night on the train while this was happening, and maybe they would be in danger if they stepped in. Maybe there were another woman in the train car and she was terrified. There were 10 people in the train car who did absolutely nothing. And if you look back at his track record, his rap sheet, both on the local law enforcement level, at the federal level, we're turning into a society in these cities where the DAs don't prosecute people of compounding this idea that criminality is okay for whatever reason. Why wasn't he deported? Was it a technicality? Was it for politically correct reasons? Why was he back on the street after committing sexual crimes in the past?
Sad. This is just wow. Freaking just pathetic. Calling 911 is not going to help. Getting in there and fighting off that dude, beating him to a pulp is what would have helped. Call the cops afterwards. And yes, every person who saw that and recorded that incident needs also to be arrested, brought up on charges, and sued. Every last one of them. And it needs to be a Good Samaritan law as well. They also have to take away sanctuary cities. Take them away. If you can't see that you can't give everybody sanctuary, if you can't find out if the person you're giving sanctuary to is a person running from the law, take away sanctuary cities. Take them, take them away. It's just that simple. Like I said, I think this government is just really, both sides are really fake. That's how I see it. Because a real government, they wouldn't put up with this. And they would put in good. Why don't you have Good Samaritan laws? Why not? Makes sense to have that because the cops are not always going to be there and be there to get in time to save a victim's life, a potential victim's life. Makes sense. It's either incompetence or it's just plain a money issue. They want money. Passengers on board Metro Philadelphia train filmed a man assaulting, raping a stranger for over 30 minutes, cops said, as it reveals that the alleged culprit has been living in the U.S. illegally since 2015. Fiston Negroy, 35, was arrested and charged in the horrifying attack last Wednesday on board a southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority train near the suburb of Upper Darby. Police say that as many as 10 bystanders on the train did nothing but pull out their phones to film as Negroy sexually assaulted the stranger shortly after 9:15 p.m. through 9:52 p.m. when an off-duty transit worker eventually called 911. All 10 of those bystanders need to be arrested. I hope they didn't let them go. Arrest them all. Whether the bystanders would be penalized for recording and not intervening has caused friction between local officials after Upper Darby Police Superintendent Timothy Bernhardt said they could face criminal charges. Good. However, a spokesperson for the Delaware County District Attorney's Office told DailyMail.com that the DA has no intention of prosecuting witnesses of the crime who could help bring the perpetrators to justice. Oh, boy. They need to be prosecuted. Have them say you're gonna do some time. You're gonna pay some sort of consequence for not helping out. So help out, and you'll get a lesser consequence, because this cannot go unpunished, both for the perpetrator and the people who refused to do anything about it. There's enough people to beat the crap out of this dude and have him in pain, semi-conscious, until the cops came and hauled that piece of garbage right at the feet of the police. Real easy. Nigo sat down next to the woman about a minute after he boarded the train. Shortly after 9:15 p.m., investigators wrote in the affidavit a probable cause for his arrest obtained by the Philadelphia Inquirer. Surveillance video, which police have not released, shows him forcing himself on her as she pushed him away multiple times for over 30 minutes until he is seen ripping her pants off. 9:52 p.m. Damn. Upper Darby Superintendent Timothy Bernhardt said that while there were multiple people on the train, it was ultimately an off-duty Southeastern Pennsylvania Transport Authority employee who made the call to 911, which allowed officers to arrest Ngoy. Bernhardt said officers responded within 3 minutes following the lone 911 call, which came when SEPTA employee saw Ngoy forcibly pulling off the victim's clothes. Police would not disclose exactly how many witnesses were there and how many filmed the scene, but the train made 27 stops on SEPTA's busiest route in the time Ngoy assaulted the woman. Bernhardt added that anyone who recorded the assaulted could face criminal charges, which would be determined by the Delaware County District's Office. He did not elaborate what charges might be, however. You let this happen for over 30 minutes. 27 stops. 27 stops. You heard this woman screaming, crying for help for 27 stops. I think people need to petition to hold these 10 people accountable. Hold every last one of them accountable. This is sad. This is really sad. And sue the Biden administration for their immigration policies. Sue them hard. There was a lot of people, in my opinion, that could have intervened. Somebody should have done something, Bernhardt said. It speaks to where we are in society and who would allow something like that to take place. So it's troubling. If this was their sister, their mother, their daughter, and nobody did anything and they just watched for 27 stops, they would know how it feels. Meanwhile, a new report revealed that Ngoy who gave his address as Philadelphia-based homeless center, the Broad Street Ministry in Congolese national present in the U.S. illegally. Wow, he's here illegally. Yep. The man was possibly mentally ill. He should have been sent back home immediately. He entered the U.S. on a on a student visa 2012, but remained after the visa terminated in 2015 and was protected from deportation by the immigration system despite multiple convictions as recent as this May. Court records show that Naguli had multiple arrests dating back to 2015 and 2 misdemeanor convictions, one for controlled substances and one for sexual abuse. Everybody who was in charge of that case, whoever said he could stay in this country, need to be sued. Pleaded guilty to the sex charge in 2017 in Washington, D.C. and was sentenced to 120 days in jail and was then placed in immigration detention in January 2018. However, Nagui was never deported because an immigration judge granted him a withholding of removal in March 2019. After an appeals board found that his sex crime was not a serious crime that made him eligible for removal. Let me read that again. However, Nagui was never deported because an immigration judge granted him a withholding of removal in March 2019 after an appeals board found that his sex crime was not a serious crime that made him eligible for removal. What? Since then, Nagui has been free and required only to check in periodically with immigration and customs enforcement under an order of supervision. Wow. Our government is really incompetent. Extremely. Nevertheless, he was arrested twice, more than the past year, both for disorderly conduct, once in January 2020 and again just this May. Regarding last Wednesday's incident, Nagui told police that he recognized the woman and went over to speak to her, according to the affidavit. However, surveillance video and the victim's surveillance accounts say otherwise. The footage also shows several bystanders standing idle or filming the attack on their cell phones. As many as 10 people actually saw some part of the attack on this rider, SEPTA Transit police officer Thomas Nestel III said Tuesday on Philadelphia radio station WPHT, describing police review of surveillance video. Nestel said, "We were watching to see if somebody put a phone up to their ear, indicating they might call 911. Instead, we saw people holding their phone up as if they were recording or taking pictures. It may have been stopped sooner if a rider called 911, SEPTA spokesman John Golden said in a statement. She said that she had never seen Nagui before. He sat next to her and then attacked her. The alleged victim told police she remembered getting on the train and then nothing until the cops pulled her assailant off of her. She said she had several beers after work and got on the wrong train when Nagui approached her. She repeatedly pushed Nagui away as he attempted to touch her and at one point grabbed her breast, the video showed. Throughout this time, the victim is obviously struggling with keeping him off of her. Investigators wrote in the affidavit, "It's disturbing that there were definitely people on the L train and no one intervened or did anything to help this woman," Bernhardt said in an interview with the NBC 10. Other passengers reacted by getting out their smartphones and pointing them at the pair, the Philadelphia Inquirer reported. "I have no words for it. I can't imagine seeing what you were seeing through your own eyes and seeing what this woman was going through, that no one stepped in and helped her." The victim was transported to a nearby hospital where she was treated for injuries following the assault. The Upper Darby Police Department is reviewing the footage of the attack to determine who was there in order to interview them as witnesses. Nestle urged the public to help his officers by reporting suspicious behavior when they see it. Riders don't always know when to contact the police. He said, "I'm here to tell you, when you see an inappropriate behavior, you wouldn't want it done to your 10-year-old to see. Call 911. SEPTA issued a statement following the assault, calling it a horrific act. The assault was observed by a SEPTA employee who called 911, enabling SEPTA officers to respond immediately and apprehend the suspect in the act," said SEPTA spokesperson Andrew Bush. There were other people on the train who witnessed this horrific attack, and it may have been stopped sooner if a rider called 911. SEPTA urges anyone who observes a crime being committed or any dangerous situation occurring to report it. Anyone witnessing the emergency should immediately call 911. Nigo was charged with rape and assault. He's currently being held at the Delaware County Prison, and his bail is set at $180,000, according to court records, which do not show that he has hired an attorney or request a public defender. His next court appearance is in a preliminary hearing on October 25th at 9 a.m. Wow. This is sad, man. This is horrible. It really is. A very horrible situation. It should be brought to Biden's attention what has gone on and what does he want to do about it. I hope people are not going to be dumb enough to elect him again, but what could I say? People are going to do it, especially the majority of the black community. They're going to vote for Biden. Not saying vote for Republicans, but after, this situation, I think you guys could understand that it was a bad idea to put Biden in office in the first place. All right. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think illegal immigration had a part to play in this assault committed by an illegal immigrant? Do you think this country's immigration system is also to blame for this assault that happened to this woman? Do you think there needs to be an overhaul? Who do you think needs to be sued? Do you think also the government with these immigration policies, do you think that they need to take away sanctuary cities in all 50 states? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Later.